graciously volunteered to take the minutes, so we're going to help her as much as we can and make sure she gets all the information she needs. I guess we don't need to do introductions, so we'll just keep going.
I was going to say, are we running a recording right now?
Yes,
We are
Okay.
already
It's
recording.
open.
And Gina, did you have anything for public comment?
Nope.
I've got 2 letters. Well, actually, I'm only have agreed to read one because this got sent to me specifically. This is from Bob Polesny. I also forwarded an email to all of you from Bill Gorell that had a lot of different ideas on it. It was like 3 pages long. So at some point we'll, discuss that, but I'm not sure necessarily at this meeting. So unless it comes up, because a lot of it had to do with PR and fundraising,
By
right?
the way, here's a drink.
Oh, that's mine.
Okay,
Sorry.
just didn't want to
Go drink it.
spill it.
Okay.
I'm so hopeful.
So here's the letter from Bob Polesny. It says, Vicki, I'm unable to attend the board meeting this evening, but wanted to send along a few thoughts. If the WEF board decides to become an internet-only radio station, my thinking is that I will no longer be involved with the station. I understand we need to save money in as many ways as possible while we look for ways to increase our income. However, I believe that giving up our transmitter and becoming an internet-only station is not the way to do this. My thinking is that I would step away from all my responsibilities, computer and web work, technological assistance, my blues genre co-director position, and place on the music committee and all the blues and reggae shows that I host. Call me old-fashioned, I guess, but I just don't see WEF viable as an internet-only station. We have a very diverse schedule, and I don't think that appeals to the internet masses. From my recollection, we spend about $12,000 per year on power to the transmitter site, and perhaps a little more when you add in the recent repair costs. That's only about 10% of our annual budget. There must be another way to save this money. Of course, I'm one of the folks that has spent ice-cold mornings and hot afternoons working out at the transmitter site to keep WEF 90.1 FM on the air. Perhaps it's the history of radio and blues that makes me want to keep us transmitting over the airwaves and reaching as many folks as possible. WROX, the Clarksdale, Mississippi station, where Ike Turner, Robert Nighthawk, and Sonny Boy Williamson II broadcast blues back in the 40s and 50s. WDIA in Memphis, Tennessee, the first station programmed by and for African Americans, where both B.B. King and Rufus Thomas got their start, and the granddaddy of them all, KFFA and Helena, Arkansas, where King Biscuit Time had been a weekday feature on that station since 1941. Sharecroppers would take their lunch at 12:15 in the field so they could listen to King Biscuit Time. That program was influential to almost every Delta blues musician who came from that area. We're talking about folks like Muddy Waters, John Lee Hooker, and hundreds more. I find it ironic that I write this on Monday, since last Friday we had several blues guests in the house on Swingin' Dave's Blues House Party show. Fiona Boyes, a guitarist from Australia, played several songs live on the air for our listeners. Eddie, the Chief Clearwater from Chicago, stopped in for a live interview and brought along one of the young blues musicians he mentors, originally from Toyota, Japan. He was also interviewed and played live with Fiona. Bob Coratori, a blues harp player and himself a radio DJ and club owner from Phoenix, Arizona, stopped in and played a tune with Fiona. Bob brought along the legendary 91-year-old piano player Henry Gregg. I've heard him play before. One of the highlights for me was when Eddie Clearwater remarked on the air that he used to watch Henry Gregg play with Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters back in the 50s up in Chicago. I honestly don't think you'll ever get this kind of respect from legendary blues musicians without having a transmitter and broadcasting over the public airwaves. I think it is still the best way to reach the underprivileged, those that can't afford computers and broadband internet access. As I'm sure you're aware, I have the technological resources and know-how and knowledge to set up my own internet radio station in my living room. I would turn it into a cool blues station and broadcast what I want. I could have done that 10 years ago if I thought that was the way to go. No, I believe we need to keep transmitting at 90.1 FM. It's one of the cores of our mission to bring a variety of music and opinions to everyone. Thanks. Bob Polesny. Okay, so let's go ahead and we have an agenda in front of us, page 1 and 2 of your packet. Are there any proposed changes?
Public comment, Gina?
I already asked
Oh,
her.
I didn't hear that, sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
Any proposed changes to the agenda? I did add a couple of items, so yeah, did you have anything?
Oh, I see that too there.
We did have the closed session.
Yeah, we needed to discuss the new alcohol policy and.
It's on there, isn't it?
No, it's not.
No,
it's not.
but that was
So-
voted on last month, so it,
But, well, there's several things with that.
okay,
As I can tell from the previous meeting, it was neither on the old nor new business of July. So that was last month, August. So there's no reason that should have been voted on in any manner because it was not on new old business here. It was
Okay.
just something pushed through. So as part of that, I've talked to a lot of people that have a lot of different concerns about the policy. While some are not always
before
against
we
it,
start
a
talking
lot of
about
people
it,
have
let's
other. Sure.
vote to put it on the agenda
Yeah,
or
but
not,
that's
okay?
what I'm explaining.
And then
It's
we'll
not
have
just
the-
people that are
okay.
concerned, necessarily opposed to it, but some of them are actually worried how to apply it even, and that's what I meant by the policy, like, some type of wording about so that they know what to look at, what to go to, and how.
So are you making a motion to add the alcohol policy
Yes.
to the agenda?
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so moved by Andy, second by Andrew. Any other discussion on that? Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll add that under old business, and that would be letter C. Now, I need a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Motion.
I also have a question about, I think this is new business perhaps, it's been a long-standing issue about the tracking of members and membership fees and stuff, and so I was hoping we could, try to start getting some resolution, which said maybe it's new business.
I
But
would
on that-
like to request, if it's okay with the rest of the board, that maybe we add that to next month's agenda, because I think we have a pretty hefty
Okay.
list of things already, but I'll make a note of that, tracking of members for,
And members, like who's current and who's not, and then also with the membership fee. And I know
Well, that
it's
should
been
be
worked on.
coordinated between.
Of course, I'm just saying
Station
is,
manager and programming.
I just want us to make a push for that because it seems like we've
I
got
agree.
funding issues and there's a lot of chaos, and so I think that would help us, and even just who to know who to send mailers out to, because I know that list was kind of messed up too. So I really
Okay.
want to see if we can make a push.
I've
I think
got
that'll help
it.
a lot of different ways.
under action items, I add tracking of members to the discussion
Good.
for
Yeah, thanks.
next month. Okay, so there's a motion to approve the agenda as amended from Andrew, a second from, you need a second from Robert. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving on, we've got an agenda approved. Now we've got two sets of minutes. On page 3 and 4 are the open session from last month, and then page 5 and 6 are or page 5, I guess, is closed session from last month. So let's take open session first. Need a motion to.
Number 7 is not quite right, so if we could make a note to change that.
To
My
what?
treasurer's report, I provided the transition from FileMaker Pro to DonorSnap and from Account Edge to QuickBooks.
Okay,
Just for the record.
and from Account Edge to QuickBooks?
FileMaker Pro to DonorSnap.
Okay, so Account Edge doesn't belong in there.
Yeah, it does. Provide the transitions, plural, from FileMaker Pro to DonorSnap and from Account Edge to QuickBooks. There were two different things
Got it.
that had to
Okay.
happen, and they both happened.
Okay,
Well,
have you got that, Barb?
Change
So
the-
number 7 on the minutes would be changed from,
Okay,
SA provides that the transitions from FileMaker Pro to DonorSnap and Account Edge to QuickBooks are complete. Any other changes?
And the account edge.
Okay. Right here.
Any other changes? Okay, then, I need a motion to approve the meeting minutes
So moved.
as amended from Andrew, second by
Me,
Sandra. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Closed session minutes, page 5. Motion to approve. Barb, second by Andrew. Any other discussion on this? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. On to my report, just a couple things. We do have Rich Bressler, who's still trying to get on the PC, and his statement is posted at the station. Did you see it?
I saw it.
Okay. And so he will be voted on at the October meeting, so that his posting stays up for the appropriate number of days. And I have been spoken to by William Jones, who is interested in being on the board. I have not received a statement from him yet, so.
Waiting from Friday night.
Yeah, that William. And I heard he's also interested in the PC, so whether or not you want to do both of those, I'm sure Robert knows how taxing that can be, because you're doing both. So, certainly welcome more members to the board. We sure could use the help, so hopefully that will come through. Also wanted just to mention that we did have a air shifter training last night. We had 11 or 12 people come. That was a really nice mix of young, like a couple students and older people, retirees and women and men and black and white. It was really a nice mix of people, and they all seem really excited. Every one of them is scheduled for training, and that will happen hopefully by the end of October. So we'll start seeing some new phases. The one thing I forgot to do was take a picture. So I'm going to go to the second training on Wednesday and make sure I get a picture of them so that you can put that up on the bulletin board.
An FYI for the PC to note is that several of those came because of the guest DJ.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. A couple of them said that, yeah.
That was really
Uh-huh. Really good. So that's really all I have. I'll turn it over to you, Sandra, for the treasurer's report.
All right. Treasury report.
And notice the budget is elsewhere
Okay.
in the agenda, so just cover the
Well,
profit and loss
this
statement.
stuff that is paper clipped together then, put the scenario A and the next thing, colors on it, the budget behind it, and just go to the balance sheet first then, which shows that at the end of August, which is the reporting period that I'm responsible for here, our money market account was $29,135, and our checking account was $3,300. That's the two things that we really kind of keep an eye on there. What our total money in the bank is, $32,500 there, which is down from about $35,000 I think last month. So we dipped into our savings. That's what that's telling you. The next thing is the profit and loss statement. Again, this is for October of 15 through August of 16. And it shows that we had lost, and if you look at the bottom line, net income minus $28,898.
So this is prior to
The pledge
the pledge drive,
I
okay.
ran it, I didn't include it as a report, so it wouldn't have been appropriate to do it.
Right.
But it would have been, that we're gonna lose about $15,000 for the year, which is what we lost last year and the year before. So that has not changed, but I'll talk more about that in the budget. And we are totally using the accrual system now, which means that everything that was pledged is like it's came in. It's not, we count it as it's invoiced or as it's pledged. And so there's a lot on here that, well, not here actually, in the next month. There's a lot in here that is pledges that aren't actually in yet, and there's a lot in here that are invoices that aren't actually in yet, because we did make not in this one, but in the next month, we made a big push to invoice all the underwriters who hadn't been up to snuff, and hopefully they will pay those bills.
Yeah, I will say that this pledge drive, most people are paying at time of pledging, as opposed to like, when the pledge drive, a lot of people pledge later, most people pay upfront.
That will help. That will help a lot.
Yeah.
Can I just put treasurer's report? I don't have to put all the other stuff.
No, we'll attach this to. Any comments or questions for Sandra? Mark is texting me. He obviously forgot that we're having a meeting tonight.
Hello? Mark.
Yeah.
He wanted to Skype in.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll ask him if he wants to. That would work. Okay, so we need a motion to approve the treasurer's report as presented.
Do we need any questions asked first, or?
I asked if anybody had questions.
All right. Sorry, now my memory's going.
Okay, thank you, Robert.
Second.
Second by Barb. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to, got too much damn paper in front of me here. Okay. Next thing would be reports. We got a report from the non-PC meeting from Barb. We got a report from Digital Library Committee that's included in your packet. And then, I don't know if you read the report from Anthony. He sent one very late in the afternoon that I forwarded to you. And it's a pretty short one, so I'll try and pull it up here. And there we go. Okay. Anthony says, okay. Just a short one for the music committee if there is still time to add it, and there's not. The MC is seeking one or more persons to serve as rock genre director. We are also looking for volunteers to serve as recycling coordinator and communication coordinator. With the help of the communication coordinator, the MC seeks to create a consistent format for reporting WEF spin data so that we can better share it on social media and other engagement channels. Thanks, Anthony. Any other reports to add there? Oh, we got Laney's as well. We should have a separate handout on that. Laney, did you have anything to add there?
I was thinking one of the things that you left off was that you attended a seminar with me on the
Oh, yeah, I did.
big give big to our My Station.
We did. It was an online webinar, talking about the end of year fundraiser, Give Big to My Station. So it's all a training for that. It's going to be 2 days. It's really easy to share on social media. It's really mobile friendly. So
I've added it to the agenda, so
Oh, good.
we can
Good.
talk about it more in depth when we get to that. So I added it under fundraising. I had looked at, I didn't see the webinar, but I did see the information online, so I'm anxious to hear about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else under committee reports or staff reports? Okay, then let's, yeah.
You got,
Yeah.
go ahead.
There's that. Okay, so I had a question about the unofficial programming committee thingy. Then I was gonna maybe talk about where's the digital? Was that
Single
in
sheet,
there?
this one?
Digital library is in the packet.
Yeah.
So also,
It was on page like 5, 6, I think.
we don't have a community advisory board.
Oh, I see that one. Okay. So I can actually talk more about the digital library, just at least what we did real quick. There's a new Win 7 computer. Kevin's doing the sound exchange reporting and checking Smetron compliance and submitting show info. They've been using day sheets and web metrics. They would like the programming committee to
What
follow
report
up.
are you reading?
Why are you talking?
Digital library committee. I was giving you
No,
updates.
but I didn't catch what you said.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to go through a couple of highlights.
Okay.
So this
So I said, we've been doing the sound exchange reporting, Kevin has been, and checking expenditure on compliance as part of this. They've been trying to use day sheets and log files as metrics. So they would like the programming committee maybe to follow up on people not trained in doing this, because perhaps in the compliance it's related to issues where people just haven't been trained. So
Well,
this
you
was,
want us to follow up on people who are not trained on the day sheets or who are not trained on Spinatron?
Well, I'm not an official note taker, these are just my notes, but it's
Whose notes are you
basically,
reading?
I'm sorry,
Whose notes are you reading?
mine for the meeting.
From the digital library meeting?
Yeah.
But they didn't submit any report.
Yes,
They did.
Oh,
Yeah, but it's
okay.
up in
Yeah.
paragraph, it's like
Yeah.
this.
Okay, so then what are we,
Oh, so I was just trying, I just, since it was very short and I was there, I thought I would just give y'all some highlights and some issues. Because I thought that touched on other things about just general
Okay,
training, airship
sure,
training, that
go
type
for
of
it.
issue, which is why I was mentioning that.
okay.
And so some suggestion about maybe folks aren't just being jerks, it's just that they just don't know, or they don't remember like the importance of some of this, so maybe it was kind of walk through to show them.
Spinatron training.
The meter readings, it's also the meter readings, the
Okay.
log files. Because to do reporting properly, make sure that artists and the labels get what they need. We actually need to have these log files filled out completely.
Maybe both of those, Spinatron and the
And meter readings.
Yes, that's what I was saying. Yeah, exactly. The day sheets and the log files. Also, it had come up, and that's part of what the Digital Library Committee has been doing is taking little snippets of people's voices and then using them for fundraising and other stuff. People may not be aware of that. So it is. So there you go. I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. Thank you for those additions. Anything else? All right then, let's go ahead.
Can I have a question about the
Sure.
programming committee thing that said? You said we discussed some possible changes to Etsy Progressive News permanently in its current location, which would involve some changes in other programming. This involves talking leadership. This involves been done yet.
What are we going
What
with now?
committee are we talking about?
She wants to know what's going on with public affairs, with putting See Progressive News permanently in the Monday slot and moving Friday Forum to someplace else. It's a programming committee thing,
Yeah.
and we haven't done a whole lot with it yet.
I guess the thing to do is, that's programming, so.
Well, yeah, I was just wondering what were
Yeah.
the shows what is the issue, what day was it, what airshifters were involved,
Yeah.
what shows, like,
It involved Friday.
No, let's not go into it, we don't have time.
Okay.
Gina?
There's an email that I got, and I believe station manager, and maybe a couple other people, that proposal has been withdrawn.
Oh, I didn't get it.
That's because it was only sent to you and,
Yeah, just a
and
couple.
Laney,
Yeah.
so.
It'll be in the it'll go to the programming.
This is
Okay.
just a heads up.
yeah, I was just
Okay.
curious about
So
which shows
it-
it was and like what.
But if it's been
Yeah, it's been
withdrawn, there's
withdrawn,
nothing.
so.
Okay.
Okay. All right, are we ready to move on? Any questions for Laney on her report?
No, just a suggestion though, which I gave you already today, that I know that a lot more got done than what you've actually put on your report, and it would probably be helpful just to keep a running list all month long, so you had a good list to share.
It's just, it's so hard at the end to reflect on.
I know, that's why a running list is
Yeah.
helpful.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, so for the Claudia signups and stuff, what period are you setting before you follow up on them? Is it like a week or 2
We
weeks?
already followed up with all of them.
Great, okay, wonderful.
We did that.
Invoicing, you mean, for pledges, is that what you're talking about?
No, just recruiting them to get participate
We already
however
responded.
and
So we
stuff.
sent out, we had an email sign up, so we responded to all of them. We did a nice email campaign, interested in station a little bit more, talked about the air shifter training, talked about volunteer opportunities, internship opportunities, put it on our Facebook.
Excellent.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, terrific. Okay, moving on then to new business. First thing on the agenda is a vice chair election. As you may know, this is Al's official last meeting, though he's not here. He's in California visiting family. So we will need to have a vice chair appointed soon. And the duties of the vice chair really are to, if I am gone for whatever reason, to chair the meeting.
Is Al joining the board in another state or is he completely retiring?
He is retiring from the
Okay.
board.
That was
He
Well,
will continue to do things on behalf of WEP,
Okay,
but he's not going to be coming to board meetings.
okay.
So, the other, duty is to be on the executive committee, which is in fact,
Yes,
you know,
thank you
we're
for mentioning
supposed to,
that.
we're supposed to be meeting, you're supposed to be available once a week for a meeting with staff.
Which
Right.
the time of that can vary, right?
Yeah.
Would you, can I nominate you?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to nominate you.
Twist my arm.
to be the vice chair.
And I will second that nomination. Are
So
there any
try-
other nominations?
You can nominate yourself as well.
Gina?
This is not a nomination, but I believe that 21-day thing has to happen for any elections.
Not for officer
Oh, okay.
elections.
I
Yeah,
apologize.
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any discussion on that? Andrew, do you want to make a statement?
I will do the job to the best of my ability, and like you said, when it comes up and you're out of town. So
Okay. Do you object to having you want to have a secret ballot, or do you want to have
I'm
a
fine,
voting
no.
voice vote?
I think
I
it's
can find
actually
out.
required that he leave the room and we vote.
Okay,
So,
get out. Thank you for checking. I love that you check on that stuff, because I'm not good at it, so thank you. I'll let you know, I'll scream when it's time to
Don't
come
go
back
far.
in. Yeah, don't go far, don't leave. Okay, is there
All right,
any
that's far
discussion
enough.
about Andrew?
this is still open, right?
Huh?
This is open, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yes, I would have nominated Andrew, so I'm happy.
Thanks.
Okay. Any, okay,
But if there's any.
all right. Can we take a voice vote?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Andrew,
Recorded.
that was my chance to escape.
congratulations, you are the new vice chair. Okay, moving on, that was an easy one, okay.
Step up in the nightmare.
I added admin assistant position. Is that something you want to put off until the budget discussion, or?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll just delay that when we'll come back to it. Okay, the last one is kind of an easy one too. I don't know if you remember, about 2 or 3 years ago, several of us got car banners, the decals on the back of the window, that were essentially donated by Array, which is a banner place in Urbana. I know the guy. And he said, you know, what he would do, and I talked to him recently, because I just got one put on for the Disability Resource Expo. We could design one for West again, and he would install those on as many cars as we wanted to have done for $40 per car. And essentially, it is a driving billboard. Now, the one that we had done previously had an awful lot of stuff in it, and I think it was not really well visible. It was very nice, and it was very artistic, but it just wasn't something that would, you know, hit you and make you think, you know, let's listen to this radio station because they have an interesting, you know, banner.
How big is
I-
it?
It's as big as your back window on your
When you go
car.
outside, it's still in my car. So
You still have one?
Oh, yeah,
I
my
had
car's
to
still-
take I
mine's a
traded
Western
my
Mobile.
car in.
So it's actually parked right out front and you can see it. It takes up the whole windshield.
Is
I,
it permanent?
Sounds dangerous.
It-
No,
The
it-
windshield
Not
wiper
proliferated, it's
taken
like,
down.
you can see through it.
Like the holes?
like
You can
a-
see through it from the
You can see out of
inside.
it, Yeah,
Yes.
you can see out of it, but you can't.
Like
see it
shades.
so well.
Unless it rains.
yes, when it rains, it is a problem, seeing outside of it going back. So there's that issue, but beyond that, you can see just fine out of it. It's actually kind of surprising. From the outside, you would not imagine that. You sit in it, you can see out just
A lot of
fine.
people
It's like a little,
decoration.
yeah, the,
Yeah.
you can take it off, and like, if you wanted to peel up the sides, that's kind of how they even put it
Just a
on.
laminate.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be like, you can remove it, at any time.
And
if
I
you
have
want.
removed them before,
Okay,
so
good.
I've got one on my car right now for the Disability Resource Expo. That will be over in about 3 weeks, and so it's gonna come off. And then if I wanted to, I could get, if you get a new weft banner, I would leave that on for a long, long time.
Did he design it, or could we have one of our?
We would design it. So Ed Hadley did the last one, which was beautiful.
Coke has been really helpful right now with doing marketing and things like that. For West Fest, I had Ed do the graphics. We're trying to keep it very fair, going back and forth.
Uh-huh.
So maybe if we can ask Coke to do this one, or maybe they can both make one, we do both. I want to try and keep both of them happy.
Yeah, I would like to keep this one really simple. If you're
Yeah.
familiar with the one that we had, and if you haven't seen it, look at Andy's car on the way out,
Yes.
it's there. It had a lot of information on it.
Yeah, it
I
does.
would like to see something that says, community radio, listen to WEFT,
Yeah.
website, call letters, something really, really, really simple.
Coke has been very, like, she did our Pride shirts, she did the podcast logo.
Sure, I'm familiar.
Yeah.
She does good work, so.
Yeah, so maybe.
So I guess number one decision that would have to be made is, does the board want to do that, knowing that we may possibly have to pay for these? Likelihood is that Rob Washburn is a friend of mine. Last time he said, don't worry about it. He may donate again. But I think we have to go into this thinking we might have to pay the $40 each. Now, he told me that he may be moving to Florida in 6 months and closing the business. So this, another thing, it might be our last opportunity
I would say.
to get something like that done.
I'd say try to let Lainey work her bartering magic on it.
Yeah.
Go for it, even if it's $40 a piece,
Under
there's gotta be at least a couple people that would pay.
I think
Yeah.
last time we only got 4 or 5 people at the
So
most. It
it's-
was
It was 3.
you, me, Connie.
Oh, was it? No,
Connie
before,
did
because
one.
it was,
Lori did.
yeah,
too.
Lori had got it too, so.
Would
she-
people want to pay for their home? Or like half?
That's exactly
Well, it was free for me, so I was
why
like,
not?
why not? But, I think at $40, like, I'm not
Is there any
that wealthy,
initial
so
overhead?
it kind of seems
No,
like it.
it would be our design, and he just needs a graphic, a JPEG file. You have to go in 2 times to get this done. Once to get your car measured, the back window measured, and then the second time, after it gets it printed, then they install it, which takes maybe 15 minutes tops. It's no
Yeah.
big deal at all. So I would think if you guys are in favor of that, we'll maybe ask Coke to go ahead and put something together, and we'll just have to consider how much we're willing to put into this. So how many cars, will we pay for?
Well, of the board, how many, I'm just gonna leave mine on currently, it's still good. But how many of y'all would be interested? Because maybe that's the way to tell whether or not there's a large amount of interest, then maybe we could consider it, I don't know, or maybe not. I'm not really sure how to do that, but maybe by polling we could get some idea of whether or not this is, we should bother.
Well,
I mean,
I don't know that we necessarily have to ask just board members.
yeah, I guess I was gonna do a quick poll of like folks here, like who here would be like, I know you can't for your job, Andrew, but I didn't know like.
I
Well,
can't,
we-
I
do
can't
we-
just because it would block too much vision for my already blind husband who.
Oh, yeah, that's
You know,
Someone
I'd be willing to ask
interested.
work again, though.
I got a
It's
couple
been a couple
vehicles.
of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's not that expensive, so.
Quick technical question. That windshield wiper, obviously will take care of the rain, water, visibility problem, but does it damage the decal itself?
No, I had
Does
a,
it? Oh,
no,
okay.
I had a wiper on my last car that had that. You're not supposed to use the wiper for like a week after you put it on there, but it was not a problem at all.
Right.
But when you wipe it, there's still water underneath
Hmm.
the decal, and so while it's wet, you can't really see out, you can see light through it.
I have
but
a
you
rear view
can't-
camera, just for good reason.
Yeah, I think we make a motion.
Okay, well,
I think
hold
it
on.
seems pretty cheap and a good way to advertise.
I agree, and the more advertising we can get out there, I think the better it is. But I think we have to decide how much money we're willing to put into this
That's what I was
and
trying to
have
get
people say, if you want to do it, fine, and if you don't, let me know ASAP because we're going to have a limited number available.
Then may I make a motion to gather up our pre-orders, so to speak, and then deliver them to home?
Yeah, that's a good way to phrase it, because yeah.
Okay, so you don't want to say a specific
Yes.
amount of money?
Not-
Yeah,
We should know what
Five-
exactly we're doing.
We could say there's like 5 pre-ordered spots or something, and then see whether or not people got excited about that, or whatever we figure is maybe the amount of money currently we could invest towards it. Figure out how many spots that is, and say we've got 5 spots. Anyone when it's just to sign up now.
And then,
And then if there are more, we can say, okay, well,
Yeah, we can talk about it later though.
Yeah.
let me,
Because sometimes when you know it's like limited time and kind of you need something pre-ordered, then it actually gets you to do something about it.
here's
if you're
what I'm
interested.
hoping happens. We'll go with 5 people and go to Rob and say, can you do these 5? And, oh, sure, no problem, no charge. Can we do a few more?
and then, do we want to say that when do we want to give them our initial number? Right now? or-
Let's just put a cap of like $200 on it or something like that.
So
Which would
5
be
would
fine.
be
That's what I was thinking,
$200.
exactly, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Just
so
40
we'll
each.
need a motion to approve expenditure of $200 for 5 window decals. And Lainey is going to check with Cope and see if she can come up with a simple and catching design.
I wonder how you figure out how you do that with the different windshields being different sizes.
The
Well, you
measure,
measure-
that's why the
I know, but
person,
then she has to custom design.
No,
No,
she
they
makes it
stretch.
vaguely
She
the shape of a
stretches it.
windshield.
It'll fit in.
Yeah.
there.
Just copy paste.
Yeah,
Connie even has one on her, she has a Volkswagen Beetle and her back window is like yay big.
yeah.
And they put one on there, so it can be
Cool.
done,
It's all about
yeah.
stretching the margin.
That's right,
I didn't hear about it until after they were on and done.
yeah, it's pretty cool, and they do windows, like windows on buildings. They can do those too, so anyway. All right, so we need a motion to approve an expenditure of $200.
So moved.
Andrew, a second from
Me.
Sandra. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, on to old,
I have a question that I'm not sure where it fits. It might, I just want to know if Dave Monk ever got his bench back.
oh, I don't know. It was a piece of wood, it wasn't a bench, was it?
Both
He was
things.
both things, he was concerned about the log on top. I don't know about it.
Do you know where it went? I mean, do
No,
you
I
know
don't.
who moved it?
I don't know anything about it. It was just on.
Or do we want to try and find a replacement of some sort?
It's a historical.
Oh, crap.
And I don't know, because have you asked the people who like helping clean? I mean,
It was me and Brian.
you and Brian, so
I forgot.
Brian did it, so.
Well, Dave just, if it's important stuff to him, he
You should
needs
keep it
to
in.
keep it, it's sitting
Well, it was-
outside, it
It
can't
was
just,
over the second door.
It's,
Left second door.
On that rotting
it
bench.
has been there for decades. If
Not enough. It's
I-
sad, but.
that's wrong. I'm really.
That rotting bench?
I am very offended that some effort wasn't made to find out what it was and why it was there. That has happened multiple times with stuff that's just all of a sudden gone or all of a sudden moved to a different place and nobody knows what the hell's going on.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because Bruce did have a conversation with Dave Monk about that bench, the plastic under it, months ago, and asked him to move it. Bruce followed up again, and Dave, oh, well, it helps people, they sit there. He was pretty resistant to it, and then it was gone. So Dave Monk and I talked about it, I didn't know. He followed up with Bruce. Bruce, I assume, didn't know, so he left out. So there was an effort made. I never did anything with it. It wasn't me. But that's gone now.
I mean, police report file or anything? I mean,
No,
I don't know what else you would do.
I don't think the police are gonna be interested in an old hunk of wood.
And a rotting bench.
Yeah.
He was mostly upset that the plastic underneath that he had pulled from other trash cans may end up in the landfill.
Oh.
That sounds like
I
that.
understand, but I don't know where it went. I don't know about it.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right,
okay.
okay, budget.
Okay. Here we go. All right, so everybody's got a paper clip together, thing for the next one.
Yep.
Next one. So, just to go through the current actual
We made this
numbers
for you
is the
last
first column.
Or last month.
That's where we should start, on this colored piece of paper where it says 2016 actual. As Laney can attest, for some reason, our QuickBooks program was set up, so a whole bunch of things showed up in how they were donated, cash, check, credit card, payment method, instead of the categories. So I went through, and so when we looked at it, Vicki and Andrew, we really didn't know where the money came from. Did it come from a pledge drive? Did it come from a mailing, etc.?
Mhm.
I did go through all of them and sort them because they had the right class in it. So I just put them in all on the spreadsheet, sorted them by class, so we know where they came from now. So these numbers will match our final, because you're going to fix that. That's what you and Jason and I are meeting on tomorrow. So they will match our final numbers of what the end of year looks like for 2016. That first column will. So basically, we got $100 in grants. We got 16,000 in big donors. That's me plus the $2,000 donor. So it's 14,000 that Kevin and I gave plus the $2,000 donor. Non-drive donations was almost 4,000. Mailings was almost 10,000. Sustaining donors through PayPal or community shares was 4,300. Airshifter training was not attributed separately ever, so we don't know.
That,
It
and
just
there were a number of people who got memberships last
Right.
night.
It just got, so just so
So
you
who
know,
knows?
this
I'm
number,
not
this
taking
number's
any
all
ownership
Yeah.
over that,
in
yeah.
pledge drives. So this is the total of spring pledge drive and fall pledge drive, 27,800. That's our total number for pledge drives this year, all right? That's member support added up then. And then we have fundraisers. We had a miscellaneous fundraiser account, $708. Merchandise sales events, those are things that just happened recently. We basically, the fundraiser might have been from Grateful Dead. I don't know what that fundraiser was from, but, oh, right, that's right. So,
Both of them, that's
right. So, yeah, that's what it is. So there's your fundraisers, and then business support was $14,905 from underwriting, and as I said, that hopefully will all go through, but there are a lot of people on that who've been invoices who knows whether they'll actually re-up this year or not, but we're hoping.
You got mine taken care of.
And so the total income is $77,817 for this fiscal year. So that's that. Expenses are what they are. You can look through them. I remember how Andrew and Vicki payroll was in the wrong place. I moved it up into the personnel. I'm going to do that so it starts spitting it out that way. But right now I just did it for this so that we were clear on that and it made sense. So that so it goes to the next page. So the payroll expense on the back of that page, personnel, is $41,552. So that includes all the things that we pay toward workman's comp and that FICA tax and all that stuff was $41,000 this year. For some reason, we didn't get our board insurance still paid. We still never.
Is that bill not been received?
I've never gotten anything from BHI, that's what we talked about.
Okay, well,
Previously.
let me see if I can find it. I'll
Okay.
forward it to you.
We did get an email or a call from Cincinnati again, saying that we're coming due to re-up, we want to explore different companies.
Okay, so utilities are 15,823, postage and shipping, you see that, office supplies, printing, public relations, we really didn't spend anything on PR this year. Fundraising efforts were all for premiums there, 3,400. Contractual services, 338, most of it being the bookkeeper, because accountant, sorry, well, the combination of the two there. Dues and fees includes things like Spinatron, Donor Snap, not the 28, Constant Contact. No, not Grateful Dead, that's not us. Yeah, it's on there. I'm still trying to figure out what the 2080s for though in the.
Where are you?
Under, on this page, with, under
You were
dues
just
and
looking.
fees.
You
Fees and
said you
fees,
know
okay.
what this one was the first thing.
Okay, I can't remember. I'll have to, it's all the things we pay dues and fees for. Bank and other charges are mostly merchant account fees, things you pay to charge credit cards. Engineering, that's what it is there. And then you see what our tower rent is, which is added into building costs for some reason in our program. Programming costs is where the Grateful Dead is included in that there. Bad debt with unfulfilled pledges, I put it just as a note when we go forward in the budget. I kept it in, even though I don't think we'll have that much in unfulfilled pledges. I'm afraid we might have it in underwriting that doesn't get paid, so I kept it in there anyway.
Then we'll be looking at a worst case scenario anyway.
Yeah. All right, so there's what our expenses are for this year. That's where our money went and where it came in. So the next thing then to look at is scenario A, which we'll just read through the scenario A is our most realistic budget based on being very optimistic about what the station manager can fundraise and bring in for underwriting with one paid intern, which is a stipend of $7,800 annually. So that's included in the budget is under personnel is Blaney's salary and the stipend. It increases underwriting income from almost $15,000 this year to $30,000 next year. That would be 21 new underwriters at $700 each, and I just took that average between what some of them might go with one time and some of them might go with rotational. It includes $6,000 for fundraising for concerts, and with that non-member fundraising will go up to from $1,000 a year, which is what we did this year, to $10,000. So we're increasing our ability to fundraise, we hope. Being optimistic there, I feel like, but I think we can do it by having $500 a month come in through concerts.
This is not, you're talking about the Soundhouse concerts, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what non-member fundraising is, the concerts?
Well, no, $6,000 of it is, and you can
Okay.
see, and then I have $1,000 in miscellaneous, $1,000 in merchandise sales, and $1,000 in car donations,
Okay.
$2,000 in car
So
donations.
all of those things
Yes.
equal to 10,000?
Yes, that's
Okay.
right. Yeah, which is, you do not have this budget?
I do,
Okay,
that's just trying to
okay,
make sense.
all right, that's what that is, all right. It assumes pledge drives will increase slightly from the $27,800 that we earned this year to $30,000. And note, this is actual pledges coming in from 240 was what we came up with, unique individuals. So that number, if you could fill in there, is 240. That's how many people pledged this year. 240 people total between the two pledge drives. Now, some people pledged in both pledge drives, but there's only 240 unique individuals pledging to the station in 2016.
Is that kind of the big donors we have in another line?
Well, that's only two of us,
Oh, okay.
so 242.
Know if you'd be able to bring in a third big donor.
How much did we bring in from the mailing specifically?
So mailings, as you can see there, through the year of 2016.
No, I'm talking about just this last
I
mailing,
can't tell you
the
that.
pledge drive mailing.
All I know is
I don't
what,
have that number off the top of my head.
But we have it somewhere? Okay, I would like to, I think we need to
Yeah.
keep them separated so
are.
we know what was effective and what wasn't.
Right, that makes sense. I will say this time, consistently, on average is $100 checks coming back. But some of them were, as low as $2. So it's a big, so,
Yeah, $2,
yeah,
wow.
but,
They're big spenders.
and the note was very sweet, but, so it was effective, but they were like, $5,000 checks, but I didn't expect that.
Yeah, well, on average, in the past, we have brought in about 5,000 in from the pre-drive mailing.
Okay, I would say.
let me tell you what it is, hold on just a second. It's just- Did you put it in as a different class?
For this fall pledge drive, no, because spring wasn't in that way.
Yeah, it was. Winter mailing,
But that is winter mailings pre-pledge drive spring letter.
No. Spring had the postcard mail.
So that would have been like a pre-pledge drive spring mail.
okay, well, if you put it in a different class, we can do it, otherwise you're not gonna be able to do it.
Right, we
You're gonna
sell
have
a sheet, so.
to-
Okay, all right, we'll
Okay,
follow up on that later then. Sorry to interrupt.
that's all right. So with that scenario, keeping the expenses fairly consistent, slight adjustment in case utility costs rise, a little bit less in premiums because we've got those things to give away, so we'll just have to purchase t-shirts probably. A little bit more in contractual services, just a little bit, unless in case we need to hire an engineer, so you could look at what the difference is there. I kind of, the things that are different, I put them in this brownish color. I think I did. Here. A little bit more in merchant fees, a little bit more in equipment because, or there is more in equipment because we have to purchase that $2,000 item that we got the $2,000 for. More in parking based on the current rates and less in programming costs because of no Grateful Dead. So we would end the year, if we did it this way, without big donors, we would end the year 13,000 in the red, which is better than the 16,000 we're going to be in the red this year.
This is with the pledge drive goal being $30,000 for the year.
Yep,
Because this year we raised,
27.8, 27,800.
with how much of that big donor?
None of it.
None of that. So your big donor is subtracted from that?
Right, so look at the the column 217A, scenario A. There is 2,000 in big donor support. Hopefully you'll have another person who gives like the one person did, but it wouldn't be me. Non-drive donations stay the same, mailings stay the same. Sustaining donors on PayPal and go up a little bit. Pledge drives go up from 27,800 to 30,000. So your member support is at 51,000 because you don't have a big donor, but you do have a little bit of increase. That's how that would read. Fundraisers, as I said, the benefit concert, and then 10,000 in fundraising and 30,000 in underwriting. Okay. Scenario B then. Adds a second full-time employee at $10 an hour times 40 hours per week times 52 weeks a year is $20,800. This would be an administrative assistant to the station manager. In this scenario, the income numbers don't change drastically except for the designated $20,000 that I would pledge for this position. The goal with this scenario is to free the station manager from tasks like managing the paperwork for the pledge drives, underwriting, database, mailings, the things we talked about earlier that we want done with regard to tracking who's paid their dues, day sheets, who's doing what, all that stuff. This would not put pressure on Laney to increase revenues more than is already expected in scenario A, but rather to lay the foundation for future stability by being able to devote time to studying other successful stations, consulting with the NFCB, implementing the practices that they suggest, including potential change in bylaws to the structure that works for other stations, and increases paid and works for other stations and increases paid staff and takes less pressure off of relying on volunteers. So
Researching bylaws and doing things like that is something that our board does. That is not something that someone else does.
that's fine.
Okay.
She would also be expected to research grant opportunities, again, to lay the foundation for 2018 and beyond, not an increase for 2017, which is not likely with grants. So what I'm saying there is that she would hopefully be able to be researching grants and writing grants, but not, we couldn't count on getting a grant in 2017. That's my point there. She would also be consulting with other stations with regard to programming and outreach that she would bring to the programming committee as a way to increase listenership, looking for ways to support the web team to update the website through in-kind donations and underwriting barter. In addition, perhaps she can build alliances with the UI College of Communication or other entities that may allow us to look for alternative financial structures that will make us more secure, give her time to pursue grants and money from foundations and big donors. In this scenario, the income numbers don't change drastically, except for the big donor going from 2,000 to 20,000, an increase of underwriting from 30,000 to 36. So I would hope you'd be able to increase it some if you had an assistant. That's my point here.
So what's the bottom line for scenario B?
That is minus 9,000. And I know this could be read as like, oh, Sanders holding us hostage to get what she wants with that money. I totally get that it could be read that way, but honestly, I can't feel good about putting money into doing the same thing that we're doing. I'm not saying this is the solution, but I don't know what the solution is, and this is the best I can come up with. And I don't think we're going to make a jump until we get more paid staff. You can think that the Public Relations Committee should run all volunteers and we should be doing all these things, but you can't hold volunteers accountable for anything. And it's what the NFCB talks about being the old model that doesn't work anymore, which is stations being totally ran by volunteers and completely managed by volunteers, because in 2016 people do not have that time to give to understanding the complexities of, you say that, you know, the volunteer should be researching the bylaws, but in fact, it's impossible.
No, it's the board. That's actually
I
our
know,
job.
we're
with the bylaws.
volunteers.
Yeah. Oh, okay. No, this is a different thing than the average associate. But
It isn't though.
our license
We're
is
all
dependent
volunteers.
on someone like a staff member not rewriting bylaws.
Well,
It's and multiple SOPs. It is very.
I know, but
difficult.
we would need to rewrite the bylaws. That's the point.
But then she would not be, and
She
that is
wouldn't
my
be
point.
making them. She would be.
It's that implementing and looking, researching and implementing, which seems to indicate that she would be rewriting them, and which is why I was trying to point out legally that is a problem.
So I would just be researching, consulting with other stations, and then bringing it back to you guys, and I think taking your notes and compiling them.
Yeah, the rewriting or changing of anything would have to come from us and from the associates.
Yes.
But eventually it's going to have to come.
But somebody needs to actually write it all down.
I
That's
know.
like we were doing with the programming committee.
Yeah, it wouldn't be implemented by anybody other than the board.
Right.
Yeah.
And the associates, or however it would work with.
Yeah, well, first it has to come from the board, then it goes to the associates.
And then the
Yeah.
members and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, it's the best solution that I could come up with, and believe me, I have thought about it. I've been trying, I researched the NFCB grant and trying to figure out, is there any way we can get that back? Can we hold on to the money that I have for a couple of years so that we can not, you just use up our savings, but save up that money so that when the NFCB, that when we have a big fundraising concert in the sky, we could combine that money with my money and get us over this threshold, but that doesn't look very feasible either. I was talking with Jeff today, and he was, can we do a coffee shoot? We got to figure out some way to bring in money besides just relying on donors. We're going to have to figure out something. We're going to have an association with the college, or we're going to have a coffee shop, or we're going to have something where something's going to have to change, because the scenario that we are operating under is gonna keep us going one more year maybe.
Which is the great thing about the CAB, because that is a perfect way to get out what we do and to see what people need and to start fostering these relationships with people all over the city, and then they will start promoting us too. They're on the CAB for Web. What's Web? Oh, Web is a so-and-so, et cetera, and that's a way to kind of
I
further more
totally
this
get it,
fundraising
but
and
do
all
you
this
know
other
who's
stuff.
gonna be organizing that? Laney is.
No, actually, I did organize it, and I had handouts, and we were supposed to have a meeting where I had people coming. So
But
actually, that's been taken care
it
of.
didn't happen.
Yes, because it was canceled without me being notified. So, and I had to notify the people immediately beforehand.
We were asked to,
Yes, I
submit
had
a
several people, I
form,
did.
put a bunch of people on that form, then
Yes.
we were gonna do invitations.
I did. I told you at the board meeting previously that I was sending them out. So,
Did
my
you send
point
it out
is,
to all those people on that list?
yeah, my list, yes.
Your list?
Yes, and you were supposed to be sending them out to yours. We had discussed this at the last,
No,
at that
we
board
did
meeting.
not.
Well, so at any rate,
But
the point
anyway,
is, when we very soon have the next CAB, this is the type of thing that is great. Those are other people to start getting our voice out there, getting people to know about us, and then they will also get up other people to donate and to contribute and get involved.
And that discussion item is coming up.
Yes,
Right
yes,
now,
but I'm
we're
just saying is I
on
think there's also, it's
Yeah.
not just there's no other possibilities, and I'm not even saying that this affects whether or not you choose what scenario. But I'm saying it's not all doom is my point.
Yeah.
There's light out there. There is other opportunities and things, so it's, I think, have hope.
So something I've learned in school, part of master's, is that somebody has to be involved with an organization for a couple of years before they feel like, wow, I'm really going to give them a bunch of money.
Sure.
There is
And it's
a
long-
number,
yeah.
But can we get to those couple of years right now? Are we going to make it there? And I think that's what Sandra's saying is we have to figure something out to survive right now, so the
Sure.
community members can give us money.
Right, but
And
see,
there has-
also related to the grant writing, when I wrote the NEH grant, and we got feedback from it, because they have to give it back to everyone. So I can have it, I can give it to you if you need it. One of the things that it suggested was, for a successful thing, is to get voices from the community, other people involved. That would be the CAB people.
Absolutely.
So this would be another way in which that would be speaking to the grant writing. Like basically, lots of these aspects, we need money coming in. If we work on the CAB thing, it'll actually help out all of us as well. Not that you have to stop doing other things you're doing, but I really think that this is, I know we can talk about more when it comes up, but I just love everything about the CAB. The concept is gestation, like it's exactly what we need for that, and then just legally, I think it's an awesome thing that,
And just to, Sandra's
Restriction,
mentioned
maybe.
a big concert a couple times. We do have a possibility in the works, but we can't. Al has been working toward this, and he has a lead, and it looks pretty good, but we can't publicize it yet. He doesn't want to say specifically who the act is or any of that until we actually have it locked down. If it does happen, more than likely it will be after the end of this fiscal year. So it would not happen until after October 1st of 2017. So it's not going to impact our current budget at all. Now, what could happen is if we do get that booked, we could then start going out and seeking corporate sponsorships, business sponsorships, for the purpose of bringing this group to Champaign-Urbana.
The only thing is, you talked about the CAB and that's great, but that's not what we were talking about now.
No, I'm sorry, I was saying, I think that, I was just trying to say, like I said, there's light from a lot of this, it just seems like, well, this is the only,
But-
Yeah,
I'm saying
we'll
there's
get
actually
to it.
will be some other
Yeah.
things that bringing in that should be added in here,
But,
and that influences exactly what scenario B is, it influences some of that as well.
yeah,
So that's- it is really
but we
involved.
need to get through these scenarios
Sure.
first.
I just wanted to add that.
So the big discussion item, I think, here is, do we go with, essentially scenario A is doing the same thing that we've been doing, correct? Yeah. And scenario B then would be hiring another full-time assistant to help manage the office.
Yep.
Okay,
That
the only place I disagree with this under the income is I think that saying that we're going to make only $30,000 in 2 pledge drives is too low. That sets the expectation too low.
But Vicki, it's the reality. We only made 27,800 and we did everything right.
But that was just for one pledge?
No,
That was for
no.
both.
That was from both pledge drives, and I don't know that we have done everything right.
We did in the last one, and it was depressing. I mean, it was depressing. I mean, the phone didn't ring, and we had all those people in playing all that great music, and we only, what's our number? It was,
Less than 200.
Well, I'll tell you the things that we didn't do right. We didn't get our letter out until a week before the pledge drive started. I never even got one. Our database
we
is...
did get the letter out, though. It's not like it didn't get out.
Well, it usually gets out on the successful drives. It would get out at least 2 weeks ahead of time, and it didn't. So that, I think, is an issue. Maybe it wasn't a good enough letter. I don't know what that is, but you know what the issue is. The database was difficult to manage because a lot of the data is not accurate, in that there are a lot of entries where they all say, I mean, they were entered on February 25th of 2016. People who had not contributed for years all came up as being entered on that same date. So that's a problem. That was in the transition, and I don't know how that happened or whether it can be, I'm assuming it can't be corrected at this point.
Well,
So we're
I get that it wasn't perfect, but until we have more listeners, we're not going to have bigger pledge drives.
And we're in a catch-22.
We are in a catch-22 with it, but I think we're doing a lot of things right. I do, and I think that we still need to continue to work on it, but I don't think you can count on more than that in pledge drives. Sure, set a higher goal, but when we don't reach it, it's depressing not to reach your goals. It was better to have it lower and at least have people reach it.
Well, but what happened this time is we reached the goal, and then we got an email.
We didn't reach it.
We did reach it. It was
Well,
20,000 plus. You were the one that contributed all that money.
Yeah, and
I
we
know
didn't.
that,
I know, but we didn't reach it. We didn't reach it. We reached it with me being a big donor at the end. We did not reach it. We were $3,000 short, so I kicked in another $2,000 so that people didn't get depressed.
But then you sent an email out telling them that, so they did get depressed. That's what I'm
No,
saying.
the listeners. If we assume we have listeners outside of listeners outside of our.
All right, okay.
We can't. I think it's hard, but you can't sugarcoat things with the volunteers who work there, because we are just subsidizing a hobby.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
And if that's all we're going to do, I'm not giving my money to do it. So
Right.
we got to figure this out, or it's really. I mean, it is a difficult thing, and I didn't say that to Jet Sterling at all today, but he said those very same words to me. He goes, we can't get people to pledge because they're vying for a lot of things. There's kids with medical bills and blah 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 blah, and it's like people don't want to subsidize our hobby, and that's what he said too. So when you just are perceived as a music station where people come in and play what they want to play, and it's not really serving the community in a large way, then people aren't going to give money to us.
So the conversation then rolls back to ultimately, and we need to get through this budget thing first, is PR.
And programming.
Rolls into programming,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So we got 2 budgets on the table.
And just to say, I just put him out there in C and D also, just that if somebody wants to, I really do think that should we fail, we should know what's going to happen to the building. And we were supposed to have a team of people working on that, and nobody did that this year. But, kind of like, the upstairs is really a mess, and It would cost a lot of money to fix it, is the.
Well, and Robert, Mark, and Bruce actually spent some,
Investigated, but, you know, sure, it's costing a lot of money, and more.
Well, there is, one thing that could happen that's, I think we do need to investigate is the possibility of a developer buying the building and renting it back to us. Renting the space back to us, because some developer might want to do that. I don't know that it's the right option, but,
We might as well cut our losses and sell it and just cut the heartbreak if we have to go anyhow.
Yes, we lose so many different air shifters and everything that there would just be no point at that point.
by not owning the building,
Yes, I think there'd be a massive group of people.
by not owning the building,
Yes.
Yeah, we'd be better off seeing if we could team up with INC or something else, as opposed to paying rent to stay in place we used to own there. I don't know if that.
well, but if worst case scenario, if we sold the building and just closed Weft, then we're obligated to give that money to some other nonprofit. We can't just hold on to,
Such as WRU.
$200,000, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So,
Certainly.
yeah.
How does that get decided? Is there a bring
It's
a
in our-
nonprofit?
I believe it should be in the bylaws,
I wasn't
yeah.
sure. I don't know.
anyway, scenario C and D.
Yeah.
I'm not for them, but somebody better be thinking about them.
So in scenario B, what duties would the administrative assistant have?
I would, say that we let, Lainey write a job description that we would approve.
Then we shouldn't approve this at all yet, because part of that is dependent on having this whole other position, which we
We
don't
don't-
even
we
know
have
to do.
Can I give the description, maybe?
Okay,
And I don't know if I'm thinking this right now. But if we were gonna take my duties, to just focus on fundraising and underwriting, PR, whatever, that stuff, then it would be day-to-day station management, the day sheets, the op logs, underwriting, drop-ins, emails, I guess I would do some of the events, they would have to coordinate volunteers then, getting materials ready for events, keeping the building clean even, putting
So-
out fires.
so they would become the station manager, and you would just be the fundraising person.
No, they would be her administrative assistant.
So I would be overseeing them, making sure that they're, okay, so like right now, let's look at right now. If we put Brian in this position, let's think of it that way. Right now, Brian and I talk every morning. Okay, what do we need to do? Brian, print date, or print envelopes, print this, check drop-ins, put in all the stuff in donor snap. So he's just doing things that are inputting, things I don't have to really use my brain for, but I can be there to supervise if something goes awry. Well, I'm focusing on sales calls, underwriting, putting out fires, booking bands for different things like that. So I guess if we kind of looked at that model, we could structure it more. But that's how we're doing it now, me and Brian.
I just have a question. Is there a job description that is public knowledge of what the station manager's duties are?
Yes.
Can we have that
Public,
sit-
is it somewhere where it
Yes,
can be seen
it's
by?
been
membership?
sent out on Webdo. I mean, when we were hiring, the last station man, when we hired Lainey, or maybe it was previous to that, when we hired Lori, that got sent out and was publicized in a variety of ways. And I can send you a copy of that if you're
That'd be great.
interested.
And I think if, I guess my secondary comment is, if we're thinking about scenario B, then we should probably know what the station manager's duties are as they're described in the job description now, and how that might change based on hiring someone to take on some of that responsibility.
I don't think it would change, because basically she would be able to delegate whatever she wanted to her administrative assistant. And it would be up to her to still get everything done.
That's how we do it now. And I still make sure everything's getting done. If something's wrong, my responsibility to make sure it's fixed. It comes on my
Right.
shoulders. He's just kind of my additional hand so I can do whatever he wants.
How long do we have him for?
Well, so probably as long as I would want him. So Brian, we made it an internship because he is getting something out of it for school, but he's not getting credit, he's just getting experience. But we didn't want to make it a paid position and be offering him not very much and have, any backlash of, well, that's not enough money. But if,
It's a stipend for an intern, and we have him hopefully until the end of the year, the end of the school year.
So you think Brian would not be
Because he has to be
interested in
doing-
a full-time?
if Brian, sorry.
We need to open the job up. We'll open it and we'll interview and we'll do the
I'm
whole
just
thing.
asking.
Yeah, Brian is
would
not
not.
gonna be on it now.
No, he won't be on it automatically, but I would like him to be at least considered an interview for it, and he might even want that many hours, but he is doing a lot of hours right now, we have a good working relationship where it's figured out. So, obviously, I wouldn't say he's getting, but I would want him considered too.
How many hours is he working per week now?
At the station,
10.
he's
Officially
working,
10.
officially 10, he's volunteering a lot outside of that.
How much is he volunteering?
We don't keep track of it, but a lot.
Right.
He and I, both, and so I try really hard to take care of him, like, hey, take today off, don't answer any emails, just go home, whatever, so.
Gina?
Thank you. The reason I asked about the station manager job description is because if we're gonna be hiring someone to be an assistant to the station manager, I would assume that they would have a job description. It wouldn't just be whatever the station manager tells you to do. So
Yes.
that's why I brought that up. Secondarily, I can attest to every time I go in the station, Brian is there. And I've been doing it a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many hours that is there.
Yeah, this position is not just to bring him on full-time, let me just tell you that.
I would also add to that it has actually been unclear in the past what exactly the station manager duties are. Different things have come up since, I know, I think posted for Lori. So it would definitely be good to get a solid thing on the books. This is what the job requirements are and whatever, and then we can say, okay, then clearly these responsibilities are the assistant, and make it clear, not just for us, but for everyone else, and they'll know, the staff will know who to go to for certain things, not to bother, if we go with scenario B and hire an assistant and whatnot, not to bother her for like a new law, because they're like out of them or something, go to the
Here's what I would propose. I would propose that we approve, option B as our budget for this upcoming year.
But only
And-
a budgetary.
But we are not going to hire somebody right away until we have the executive committee, and I think the executive committee is the group that needs to hammer out the job descriptions and present those to the board in October for approval. That's what I think might work the best. I don't see any value in just chugging along like we are, because we're not going to get any better unless we have people on the, boots on the ground that are going out and knocking on doors and getting businesses and listeners and all that stuff that we need to do to keep going.
I agree.
All right, so I will make that motion.
I will second.
I'm gonna read it
Other
back to-
discussion.
There's one.
The motion is to approve option B.
Scenario B officially is what it's
Scenario,
called.
whatever, scenario B, with the stipulation that we will not hire somebody that we will not hire an administrative assistant until we have the job description
Approved.
approved by the board as written by the executive committee.
Very good.
All right? Any
That's
other
only what I
discussion?
said.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Alright.
Huh?
Somebody seconded already?
It was Andrew
I
and,
second.
Okay.
and I, yeah.
Aye.
So everyone said aye, all those opposed? Okay, very good. Moving on, Community Advisory Board.
Oh,
Now,
wait.
yes.
Thank you, Sandra, for working so hard on that.
Well,
I can vouch for the fact that she has been up like 24 hours a day working on this because I was getting texted last night at bedtime.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I have to say, is I can frickin' understand the budget. I couldn't understand it when we were getting it before.
Yeah.
Since Sandra has taken over, I actually understand what the columns mean and what,
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so,
appreciated.
sorry to push you along. Community Advisory Board, I actually sat through an hour-long session on community advisory boards that was on the NFCB website. And so I recommend, and I think I said this in an email, I recommend that all of you get access. All you have to do is register and let them know you're from WEFT and tell them that they can get the okay from board chair at wef.org, and you get approved, and you can get on there and have access to literally dozens of webinars on a whole wide variety of different topics. The Community Advisory Board is the one that I picked out to listen to, and as I was going through it, I took notes. So that's what you have on page 7 and 8 of the packet, are the notes that I took. Yeah.
I just also, I wished I would have brought it, I'm sorry that I didn't, but I was in contact with the Champaign County Mental Health Board this past month because LA Counseling is thinking about starting a nonprofit, and I just wanted to know about some stuff. And they had some great, one of the things, even if you didn't, anyway, they had some great information on community advisory boards that was really helpful too. So I will I'll scan it and forward that to you as well.
Yeah, so legally, we're not required to have a community advisory board except that it's in our bylaws. So that's the only requirement.
Right, we used to be
when we got a CPB grant, then we were required to have one. It was really interesting because when we used to have our CPB grant and we had somebody in charge of the CAB meetings, we never really knew if there were people that came or who they were or anything. It was all selected by one person who was a board member, and the rest of us never had a clue about what was happening. According to this presentation that I looked at, it was really pretty specific about, who are the people that you want to have on your board, and it said 5 to 12 people is the most that you should have. So inviting a big group and trying to make them a board of directors probably is not a good idea. So getting representation from a variety of from a cross section of the community, but you need to pick your board members specifically. So I know we had some conversation about, well, let's talk to an organization and have them
Actually, I
send.
talked to them specifically. I
Oh,
went
good.
in person
Okay.
each time, actually before I sent out emails, and that's what I talked about the board
Okay.
meeting. I went specifically to various different organizations, talked specifically to the head person there, and talked to them about specifically who I need to talk to, and spoke to that person and
Okay.
talked about WEF.
All right,
So I'm
very
not going
good.
to do exactly
Okay,
that.
super. That's exactly what we need to do then. So said you don't want people who, first of all, who says that they have a right to be there. You don't want to have those people. Nobody who's a member of the station's board can be on it, except we will have one board member who will just kind of host it. No staff, no volunteers. You don't want people who have no time to offer. You don't want people who don't care about WEFT. You don't want people who want to have a show, because you don't want people who have an agenda of, something that they want to do. The board of directors and or the station manager will select the members of the community advisory board. Just some basic advice on how it will work best, and these were from lots of stations that were participating in this webinar that had a lot of things to offer. So be sure to choose your members very carefully. You want representation from a lot of different groups, but not necessarily every group. And they have to have a clear mandate in that you want them to talk about programming? Or are they talking about events? Are they just giving advice and perspective from the community? The most important thing to know is they are not there to vote on anything. They are there to discuss, offer suggestions, and that is the end of their responsibility. So they're not like the board's boss, they're not the station manager's boss, they're there to offer suggestions. The ideal scenario, according to this webinar, was twice a year is the best time frame for the CAB, because if you get people, if they have to commit too much time, then they're not going to do it willingly. It's going to be like pulling teeth to get people to come, because 3 months does go by pretty quickly. So we just need to be really clear about their roles, our roles as it pertains to them. We don't have to take notes, minutes, anything like that. They are not open meetings, so we don't have to post them and invite the public to come. It is strictly for that group and that group alone. Yeah.
Is it a tool to recruit board members?
No.
They didn't talk specifically about it in the webinar, but I suppose if somebody is a member of the CAB and they are down the road interested in becoming a board member, we could certainly consider that. But if they come in wanting to be a board member, then I would be a little
No, I don't mean
leery.
wanting to be a board member. I mean, I'm trying to think of it if it could be a way for us to, introduce people to WEFT who would be
sure.
potential board members.
I think so. I mean, I was on
You
the
mean
school
in a very
board.
long period of time when they're no longer on the CAB? Because there'd be a conflict of interest.
I mean,
if they were.
even if they're
Well,
on the
they
CAB just
could
a
quit
year.
the CAB and
No,
go
I'm
to
saying that they quit the CAB and then yes. But
I was on the school board
Yes.
for 8 years, and we had a community advisory board at the school board, and that was a place where people were involved on the CAB, and then they said, hey, I'm gonna run for the school board.
Right, because it's my thought that we're not gonna get Joe Schmo, who has time and influence and listens to WEFT and to come and be on board. Unless maybe we can introduce them to WEFT in a way that we have this community advisory board, come and be a part of this. It's only
Yeah.
2 times a year, and then he was like, oh, I love WEFT, this is cool. Blah,
this
blah,
is
blah,
what I've been
more.
saying. I'm glad you've come around. So I gave a handout several months ago with all this information, and you're summarizing a lot of the same points I made. So I'm glad. And yes, that's exactly it. Like they aren't necessarily already interested, but they don't know necessarily much about it. We come talk to them, and we want their help, and we want their feedback. And they don't get to officially change our programming or change our rules or anything. It's like a free committee, there's a free advisory people just to help us out. And yes, and the other side thing of it is then it maybe brings them in, maybe they see more of what we're doing and they get interested, and maybe they quit the ACAB, get someone else in their organization to do that, and then start helping us out in some other way. That's exactly it. That's why I'm so excited about the CAB.
Good,
It
so
can
I
help so
think
many
we
different
need a
things.
little bit more structure to our process
And
to
yeah,
make it happen.
Well, that's why when I was
So
in the
I would
previously, I was
like
trying
to
to go through all these different points, and I'd asked, and specifically, what did we want them to do? And a lot of folks at the time, I clearly didn't quite understand the importance about that, but that's exactly it. That's why I wanted to say clearly delineate what they need, their responsibilities, and that, and also
Well,
ask
more
how many
than
times you'd
that,
like
I
to meet
think
per
we
year.
need to be really specific about who we're going to invite, what that's going to look like. It needs to be an invitation coming from the board. It could be signed by an individual board member, but we need to have a sense of who the people are, make sure they get their invitation, make sure we have a date set that's far enough out that we can get that done. And I would like to assign at least 2 people from the board to develop that list and specifically extend those invitations. Barb.
Okay, it sounds like, Andy's got some sort of a list already.
There is a list on Smartsheet that
And
some people contributed
that
to.
she's done like half of those things and expects Sandra to do the other half. I'm not sure
No,
about that.
I'm expecting that we'll have a
No,
couple.
I wasn't talking about now. I was talking about before, because she said she did this a while back and would talk to Sandra, and Sandra didn't remember it. And my point is that everybody is talking so fast that you cannot listen to anybody, to each other or anybody else. You've got to be, This is lovely, and I know we got a whole shitload of stuff to do and everything, but we need to slow down a little bit so we can actually get some comprehension. Because I sure as hell wouldn't remember if somebody was talking 90 miles a minute and asked me to do something in the middle of it. I wouldn't remember it. So just slow down and make sure that everybody's on the same page. Which is
Okay,
just a sidebar, but
Sidebar from Barb.
okay. So
So what
what
date
I'm
would we like to
proposing,
set? Sure. If we make a new list, I will, and then what date do you want to set for this then?
well, I don't know.
Okay.
If you're saying twice a year, maybe you could do like, I don't know how far you want to push it, but
Not far, not that long. Because again, as we were saying, this is going to take a while to start building up their involvement and interest and stuff. So I think the sooner it'd be, the better.
yeah, I just know if it would be better to do like, you know, June and December. Like, you know,
What is
not
the
coming
goal of the
forward.
first meeting?
Oh,
So do you expect that you're gonna just invite people and they're gonna be on the community advisory board? You're gonna
Right,
interview them, you're gonna have a
and we
web?
should have like a mixer, you know, and maybe.
that was what we had. We had an orientation meeting last
Okay,
time.
That's what
but
we
say,
had
like,
thought,
maybe we
yeah.
have a mixer and you invite, everybody invites somebody, we have a nice invitation from the board. Make it really seem like something, you know, make, that we care about it, so they'll care about it. Invite them, tell them what the community advisory board is, tell them what WEP is. And then if they're interested, we proceed with interviews or sit down individually with them from that. Then you guys decide who members of that board will be. And then they have their first official meeting after that, so you can handle business and discussion. But I don't think you can invite them over the first time and expect them to know. You can dive right in.
No, actually, I was trying to find my handout that I had. I know I sent you, Vicki, what the handout was.
Yeah, I've got
I actually
it.
addressed all of this on the handout. It's got helpful links to the CPB and other things of what definition is, and that's why I figured. And actually, my handout is for at least what I assume to be my own talk. So actually, I've already written a talk about these points, but I thought Vicki, as a head, would probably want to have.
I do have a
but-
copy of that, and I'll
But
send
you
it
would have
out
like
to
your own
everybody.
spiel, and I supplement if necessary. But yeah, exactly. Like just orientation. What is the community advisory board? What would you have to do? What is WEF like? What things might your help be needed in or wanted in your feedback?
Okay,
et
so
cetera.
what I would like to do, if it's okay with the board, is to suggest that we have a subcommittee of the board to meet. I think only one time is necessary to talk about who the invitations go to, what segments of the community should we target, maybe send emails out to the board to say, who would you suggest in this particular area of the community? And then we will, at the next board meeting, set a date. We will have our invitations ready to go out, hopefully, and then we'll be able to move forward on this meeting without having to cancel it because nothing got accomplished that we were aware of.
have a subcommittee
To develop invitations and a list of people for the CAB. And I don't think we have to vote on this, but we do need to have a couple of people step up to do that. Thank you, Andy. I knew you would.
Yes.
Anybody willing to help Andy with this?
Okay, let's do
Andrew?
this.
Okay, perfect. And I will help as well.
We just don't have to figure out where we're going to host the first time.
Well,
Oh,
first we
this is
have to
the
work
web.
on the list, then we'll.
I think we're gonna have it WEF. I thought it was good as an introduction
Okay.
to
So
like
it
what we
will be
are.
Andy,
Yeah, the Great
Andrew,
Hall.
and me, and we'll set a date for the three of us to sit down and get this hashed out before the next board meeting, okay?
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna move on to alcohol policy.
Yeah. So couple of things. One, I do not feel that according to the bylaws we could have actually voted on that last month because it had not been on the new business or old business prior to that. So, but in addition to that, when a policy like that is pushed through and rushed, there's not enough time for feedback from a lot of the folks. So outside of the objections I've heard to just suddenly adding a policy that a bunch of volunteers are going to follow, it's part of this how it's going to play out. I've heard some folks say, like, I've been doing my show for a long time, and I like to have a beer while I'm there. Well, now I can't. Well, my show is at night, and there's a lot of clubs and places I'd rather go where I could actually have several beers or something. But I've been giving up my nights to do a show for Weft. Well, screw that. If I can't even have a beer, when I'm for my 2-hour show.
When you're in
then,
the booth?
No.
Well, not
When you're in the
physically in the
building?
booth, but in the building, right? So
Beer in the building?
yes, which the FCC does not have a requirement against that,
If we
and
actually looked it up, we couldn't find a law against
yes,
it
exactly.
whatsoever.
So there is no FCC regulation against this, and so there's no reason outside why someone could not. They've had no problems before, and that's part of the problem of pushing through this policy, which seems to be an overkill because there's not like rampant, people drinking everywhere in bottles everywhere, and like it's just nuts. If there's 1 or 2 situations where it comes up, we should talk to the individual. But with getting back to my one of these complaints, so it's like, well, why would I give up my nights then? Like part of it was like I enjoyed doing the show, but part of it was like, occasionally having a beer. Like over one beer over the course of 2 hours or something. But it's just kind of like a nice little thing. Well, if I can't even have that, then why? I mean, that's kind of. I know it seems like a little pleasure, a little thing, but sometimes it's the little things that actually, when you're doing a volunteer and you've got so many other pools on your time, it's like, it's just not fun anymore. What is the point? Now it's a job I'm doing. So that was a couple concerns I'd gotten. And I had some others that were just concerned with application and so forth.
It's like, I'll have a Pepsi outside the booth in the station on Sunday afternoon. But somebody who's there on a Friday or Saturday night late, and there's nobody else in the station, just substitute a beer for Pepsi. Now, there are people in the station who don't drink, who don't want to have it around. I can understand that, and that's fine. But it is, it was a pretty abrupt change, and there wasn't a whole lot of reason behind the change except for one person complained, and I didn't even hear about the complaint. I just heard that this was the new policy because I wasn't at the last board meeting. Now, I agree that we don't need to have, people whooping and carrying on and drinking, shots of tequila and being on the air. But there's a difference in, it's like this, there's a degree. And the degree, and are we going to force everybody to stop doing something because some people went over the line?
Well, here's my perspective on this, is that if you don't have a rule, how do you tell somebody that they can't do something? So if they come into the station and they're drunk, or they're drinking heavily while they're in the station and it's impacting their performance on the air, if there is no rule, how can you say you can't do that?
But you just did. It's impacting their abilities. So thus, you'd say,
Inappropriate behavior is inappropriate behavior.
Exactly.
No matter whether
It's already covered.
sober or intoxicated.
No, if you're intoxicated, it's against the law, though.
Inappropriate behavior is inappropriate behavior. You're still, if you're going to act inappropriately, aggressively, disruptively, that is just as illegal. And you're just adding another layer to it being intoxicated.
So Barbara's saying, there's a degree of it. So, okay, so aside from putting a breathalyzer in the studio or something, how are you going to say you can have a beer, but you can't have a shot of tequila? So that's why.
How do we measure it?
Right, and that's why I think it was nothing.
Now,
Because you can't,
I think
that's
anybody
silly to be able to say,
Okay.
you can bring a not very strong drink, but I can't bring my very, very strong drink over the door. I'm not an alcoholic and it doesn't affect me. I think we can't, in this world with so many people within West, we can't say, well, do it responsibly, but if you get too far, then we're going to tell you. Because who's judging that too far? Because all of us around this table don't always agree on what's too far. So I think you either have to say all or nothing. Do what you want and have fun, or we say, No, there's no alcohol allowed.
Gina?
So, you know, we're all volunteers, but Webb is a workplace.
It is.
And I have never worked anywhere that allows you to drink on the premises, ever. Actually, I did, when I was about 25 years old, and when liability started becoming a problem, we couldn't even have our Christmas party in the building anymore because there were drinks. And then the company stopped having Christmas parties because they weren't gonna be liable for the people that might be drinking at the facility where the company sponsored the Christmas party. So in my mind, and I'm not a teetotaler, I like to have beer just like anybody else every once in a while. I don't drink excessively, but whatever. This is a workplace. We should not be drinking or doing illegal drugs in a workplace.
But by your own argument, you just pointed out how the job of which you all got paid for, of course, unlike here, so it's actually not the same. Basically, they didn't get the Christmas party, and they didn't even get like that anymore. So basically, it became not a fun place to be, and then an even less fun place to work.
But we have.
And yet, the
but
situation we're talking about is now with
Yeah.
volunteers that don't have much fun as it is.
Excuse me, I was not there to have fun.
I know.
was there to get paid so
Right.
I could pay my bills.
Exactly, which I'm saying is Webb is not that
Web
situation.
is a
We're there to give a
workplace. We
service.
still have to have a
Where we
correct
don't work to get
workplace
paid.
environment.
But we're providing
Wow.
a service, we're providing a product for the community.
Right.
It has to be of quality. How does the programming committee can say, oh, that person was slurring their words a little. What was their blood alcohol level? That's ridiculous.
See,
That's just so silly to me.
Okay. Barb, go ahead.
yeah, the thing is, back when I started hanging around the station in 1984, which is a hell of a long time ago, the policy was no alcohol in the station. That was the policy. I don't know how well it was carried out, but that was the policy. People didn't bring beer in. Now, there probably were people I probably just didn't know. And I know that there were people doing other stuff. But basically it was, I didn't even think about it. I wouldn't have gone down to the Esquire and gotten a beer and brought it in. But I don't know when that changed to, well, having a beer at a meeting is okay because we're just going to go to the Esquire after anyhow. I don't know when that changed. So now it's changing back. Yes.
If you ask on the NFC who listserv, nobody allows liquor.
In
That's not,
fact,
so
I did.
we're not every station. And
Nobody.
We're the
Okay.
favorite one.
Yeah, nobody.
Nobody allows liquor in their station. You will not find one
That's
station.
nice, but we are not every station. Now, this brings me.
I wasn't done, I
Okay,
guess.
sure. So that's
Okay.
my second point.
We are a workplace. We provide a workplace. We're gonna provide a workplace for 2 people now, paid. And and we want interns there who feel comfortable there, and we want new people to come in and feel comfortable there. And sure, we might lose some people over it. We might. And we will gain some people over it in the end. And it was a policy. It has been a policy. I don't know when it stopped being a enforced policy, but it has never been okay it has never been officially okay. And it has crossed the line into people being drunk on the air regularly and in the station drunk regularly.
Then those
Not
people
just
should be
one,
talked to
not just-
individually. Then all those people, okay, I'm even putting this outside of, look, if there's a problem with personnel, you talk to them directly. You talk to them about the situation. You set up what the situation is and what's expected. And then you give them a chance to change. If they don't change it, you set up a consequence before, tell them about the consequences, and if that's
This is-
immediate
that's
or
what we're
following.
doing.
No, it's not. You've just made a gigantic policy in anticipation of a lot of different problems, some of which may be happening on a small level. This is why I said it seems like general overkill, which also brings me to, again, my second point about how this is even going to be playing out. Because there's already been waivers granted, there's the West Sessions
There have
bans.
not been any waivers.
You said at the associates meeting, people had asked, and you said there would be waivers given for certain shows, because Todd had asked specifically.
I
about-
have not given a waiver.
Okay, but
at
my
all.
point is, you said at the meeting there would be.
It would be the board's decision.
Okay, but I'm saying is, by saying that, you're saying there are some exceptions. So therefore, that needs to be set up, if y'all go ahead and reaffirm this policy, then we need to write out not in a week or two, but like now, because we have a lot of people who are concerned about what's going to be expected of them. If they see someone drinking, what are they required to do? I mean, say it's at night, right? Station manager's not around, but there's a bunch of people that are drinking. They're like, who are they supposed to go to? Are they required to report it, or can they just go like, okay, whatever, it's just, I'll just not say anything? What are the expectations? What happens if a band comes in and then they start drinking? Is that, do you have to enforce
We've had
that?
that
Do we-
conversation.
Well, I know, but this needs to be public, like a form, a policy. That's what I mean by policy, not just a general idea, but an actual administrative policy written down.
All right, well, here is what I will suggest then. I will suggest that we add this again to the agenda in October. We'll publicize it in advance so that if anybody wants to come and have their voice heard on this particular issue, then we can do that. But we're not going to vote to overturn a policy if it hasn't been posted on the agenda in advance. Personally, I have not heard a single complaint about the policy. I did have a conversation with Anthony Santorelli, who the music committee has historically brought in a 6-pack of beer and enjoyed a beer while they had their meeting. He had no problem with this policy being, he said, we'll go to the Esquire afterward if you want to have a beer.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I think Andy does have a good point, though. If there is some kind of a waiver or possible situations where this might happen, I think she has a point in that that should be spelled out when and by whom, and, because we can't just say we're gonna have a waiver, but then there's no checks and balances to when that waiver could be issued, under what circumstances, that whole thing. So I think Andy brings up a valid point in that way. I'm still against having alcohol in the station in any circumstance, but if we're gonna issue a waiver, then we should have a policy on how that happens, who does it. So that's my two cents.
okay, so in the meeting minutes from last month, the motion was that alcohol and illegal drugs are not acceptable in the station unless prior exception by the board is granted.
It was thought about if we had a pizza party, that was the only exception we thought.
Right, yeah,
Or
that
web
email.
session.
Yeah.
No, I don't think web session.
Yeah, that did get brought up.
No, well, I had the conversation with Mike and Todd. They said that's not a problem.
Okay.
All they had to do was they had to know in advance to tell the bands.
Right.
And that's gonna
Okay.
be, that's all done, that's taken care of.
Okay, so as it stands currently, in what situations is there an exception?
None.
They had to apply for it.
They have to apply.
When we're having a pizza party, alcohol will be allowed.
If you
If.
ask the board a month in
Yeah,
advance.
not just all pizza parties.
Well, so a question, if it's never appropriate in the workplace, then why would we ever allow it to be at a pizza thing or whatever?
Are we trying to give some leeway and let people have some fun, or are we just trying to be?
Oh, but I thought we were supposed to be having fun in the
This is the
workplace.
thing. We are trying to,
No,
listen,
no,
this is the thing. We're trying to make a professional organization that has,
Sure.
in the past, been considered dirty hippies. Like, sorry to be a jerk, but that is what the community has thought of WAC. If we want WAC to survive, which we all do because we're here, we have to become serious.
Yes,
Not serious. We have to become
very
legit.
serious.
And so part of that is by letting new people come into the station and see not beer sitting around and not seeing people drunk and not having air shifters screaming at each other and screaming at the staff member. It has to look like a legitimate organization that people can walk into and be comfortable. Because I know, and Brian knows, of people we personally know who have come in to West off the street and thought, wow, this is so cool, I want to volunteer, and seen some weird shit and turned right around and never came back. We are scaring people off by not being professional, organized, and presentable. That's why it was so important to make over the station, because I want people to come in and be like, wow, this is a legit place. I'm not afraid to be here. You wouldn't go to the Humane Society and crack a beer and walk a dog. You wouldn't. You wouldn't. You would not be allowed there because that's not a professional behavior.
The other,
Okay, I'm
and
just saying,
I will admit
either have or
that
don't.
to say that there could be exceptions was kind of a way of saying,
Pacifying.
yeah, we're pacifying people to think that it might be, but in my mind,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be.
And
Yeah.
I agree that I agree that there shouldn't be exceptions. Because if we are a workplace and we are saying no alcohol is allowed, then no alcohol should be allowed. And then, to Andy's other point, if someone does walk in and see another air shifter in the station with a bottle of wine cracked open, what are they supposed to do?
Like what's her face, who had wine in the booth, drinking it on the air with her mother or sister or whoever the hell it was, because she was talking about the wine bar that's attached to Pizza Inn. And I couldn't go in there because they were on the air live, doing a live thing with no music, so they were talking all the time. And I didn't get to go into to the booth until after she was done, and then I told her that was unacceptable. But what the hell, that was stupid. People should know better than that.
But they don't, because maybe there wasn't a rule before.
Well,
Like, there's a rule
But
you can't be in
there
the
was.
studio, but maybe there wasn't a rule they couldn't have a bottle of wine.
And speaking of, if there is then a policy, we could also then put what, not really penalties, but like, how many like chances you have, or like what you need, what behavior you need to change, like, because some folks have been doing this for a while, so if maybe they forgot, could bring in beer the next week or something, you maybe don't want to. But there need to be something written down about that as well, which would also again touch on what to do to
Okay,
see someone else doing.
I would propose that we, I'll do some more research on the policy. We'll put together a written policy with a written procedure. We'll have it on the agenda for next month, and in my mind, it's going to be a ban with no waiver.
And what, some consequences.
And
That's
some
what I was
consequences.
thinking of.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
what I meant. Yeah,
I'll check with the
consequences.
NFCB folks and see what they recommend
Yeah.
and what policy people have, and we'll go from there.
That's a
And
good
so we'll
idea.
add it to the agenda for next month. I would also propose that we table the fundraising items until next month, because we still have a closed session to go through, and it is already 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, but if that's okay, we'll just have, we need a motion and a second to go into closed session.
I will motion to go into closed session.
Andrew, seconded by Barb. All those in favor say aye.
Hold on.
Right.
Just to say, you have that winter appeal letter out by Thanksgiving, and I think that goes with the, just to say, I think it goes with the give big to my station end of year thing.
Yeah, how about we have the executive committee work on that,
Okay,
okay?
all right.
All right. So, any other discussion? All those in favor, say, you had an aye, right? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll give Gina a minute to
Right.
depart.